So welcome to Powerless Penguins United Big Book Study. This week I'm pleased to introduce Mags, who's going to continue the Big Book Study. Over to you, Mags.
Thank you, Laws. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mags. I'm an alcoholic. As you know by now, drugs are also part of my story, and it's great to be here with everybody. Just a little note that I am in a different location this morning, so if you hear the noise of a dog in the background or an interruption from a child, then I'll stop for a little moment, but I'll only have just gone to get those sorted out and we'll be straight back with you. So but don't be concerned if I have to go on mute for a couple of minutes, but all being well, they'll continue to sleep. So yeah, like Lois said, we're about to, I love that word you used, embark on the third step prayer. Yeah, a very beautiful way to put it. And I think last week we covered a great deal of information. And although, yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? It was a lot of information, but really, this might sound quite ridiculous, and I don't know how to kind of articulate it in the right way for people to understand it. But although there was a lot of information in there, you know, it is a textbook. This Alcoholics Anonymous, the big book, the 164 pages, it is a textbook. It should be studied. But it's more than the information. It's what we do with that information. Later on in the big book, it talks about the fact that this is not a theory. We have to live it. And there's a lot of this step 3 conversation that we've had over the last couple of weeks, which clearly has a lot of stuff that we have to percolate. There's a lot to take in. There's a lot that we have to filter through. There's a lot that we have to sit with. There's a lot that we have to read over and over and over again for the words to actually make sense, potentially. Because the way that I talk about it may not be the way that it is in your life. Yes, you're looking for the similarities, but ultimately your life is completely and utterly different from mine. What brought you into this room is different. Why you're staying in this room is potentially different, but the solution is still the same, no matter what. And I hope that everybody did take the opportunity to let some of the stuff from last week filter through and percolate. You know, there was some big things in there around that step 3 decision. Important to know that we're just making the decision, and that in the short form as it's set out on page 59, we're making the decision. And what the decision is to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood him. But we don't do that part, the second part of the third step, turning the will and the life over, until we launch into step 4, right the way through to step 7, where step 7 ends with the step 7 prayer and the word Amen. I can't emphasize enough that as we move from 3 to 4, we're embarking upon, to use Laws's words, an exceptionally prayerful exercise. You are not doing your step 4 through 7 by yourself. Now that might seem very odd to you, because of course, you know, you're not doing it by yourself in this spiritual world of existence, this 4th dimension of existence. And you're not doing it by yourself in this physical world either, the 3rd dimension of existence, as I like to call it, because you're going to be doing it with your sponsor anyway. The rules still apply, if you like. And before any of the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book police come in and say to me, oh, or anybody in the fellowship comes and says to me, oh, there's no rules in AA. Well, there's 3 or 4 times in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous where they use the word rules. So there are some rules. For example, our rule is to let go, live and let whatever. Yeah, live and let go. What is that little phrase? You know the one I mean. I'll correct that at some point. So there are a few rules that it mentions in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. The thing for me, though, as we move into this, we're following the clear-cut directions as our sponsor has set out. The rule that still applies is we keep on turning the pages and we let the book do the work. We're continuing to have faith in the process. And ultimately all will be revealed. So last week's paragraph at the top of page 63 are the third step promises. We talked a lot about those third step promises, but the thing to remember is those third step promises won't come apparent in your life, won't come alive in your life until you take your step 3, until you do your step 3, until you've gone through the process of your step 3, until you've entered this prayerful exercise, and until you've done the work. You've heard me say time and time again, if you do the work, it works, and if you don't, it won't. Okay? So those third step promises are remarkable, like the word that it talks about on the second line down at the top of page 63. They truly are remarkable. So much so that I have to keep on remarking about them in my life. 100 million% I experience those promises in my life without a shadow of a doubt. And sometimes I will use this paragraph of the third step promises just as a sit-in meditation, just to read them, to remind me what life is all about, that I have made this decision to hand my will and my life over. And as a result of doing that, this is the things that happens. The most important thing when I read these third step promises, the line that always jumps out at me without fail is, if we kept close to him and do his work well. These third step promises will continue to be revealed in my life if I stay close to God and do his work well. And of course, we're going to talk about God, and I use the word God because it's easier. But if you're put off by the word God, choose the God of your own understanding, whatever word it is that you wish. Spirit of the universe, Mother Nature, Father of life, Father of light, Christ, Creator. It goes on in the third step prayer to talk about our Maker. Realm of the Spirit. Doesn't matter what the word is that you use for the God of your understanding. Choose whatever it is, the one that means something to you. So if we stay close to him and do his work well, all of these promises will absolutely come to bear. It reminds us again as we go into this third step prayer that we are now at step 3, where we make this decision. We're cutting away all of the other options that we've tried up to this point. And we're deciding to do this. There's my little friend Leslie has jumped on from Melbourne. Hello. It's a nice surprise. So it reminds us that we are at step 3. It's told us a couple of times that we're at that point as if we need to be reminded. The decision is that we're cutting away all of the other stuff that hasn't worked. Because let's get honest with ourselves, and we're at the point of rigorous honesty here. Well, we've at the point of rigorous honesty the whole way through. And that continues for our lifetime as well, those indispensable requirements, the willingness, the honesty, and the open mind. In order to go into this, let's say another prayer before we go into the detail of this. You may have done this program before. You may have thought you'd taken your third step prayer. And, this is just simply a book study. I'm not suggesting that anybody that's listening to this is going through the process of doing their third step prayer, but it's important to understand what this is all about. So this You may have a new experience within this moment about the third step prayer and what it means to you in your life in this moment, which is incredibly important. So we're setting aside, using that set aside prayer, we're setting aside every single thing we think we know to have a new experience with God. We're setting aside every single thing we think we know about our previous third step experience, what's going on in our lives right now. We're setting aside what we think we know about the 12 steps, our own recovery, and everything else to have a new experience with God. So what I'm going to do is simply read the prayer as it's set out. And if you wish, you can close your eyes and listen to the words of it and let them settle in with you. And then I'm going to go back over it as to what it means, what it meant to me, my experience of it. Because that changed over the course of my endeavours to try and get recovered, relapse after relapse after relapse, until eventually I got this. And what I understand from my life now is genuinely, that relapse for me, it didn't have to be part of my recovery. My relapses in my life were a complete and utter lack of recovery because I wasn't doing what was suggested. It's as simple as that, And relapse might be part of your journey, but that's okay. But it doesn't have to be. It really and truly doesn't have to be. Because if you come in and do the steps like the desperation of a drowning man, it is a cast iron guarantee that you will recover. It takes the effort, doesn't it? So we just take a moment. We're now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker, as we understood him, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Powerful words. Powerful words. And the last time I did that prayer, which was some years ago now, I don't say the third step prayer every day. Many people do, because it tells us in our 11th step to have a selection of prayers, doesn't it? That we use that outline the thoughts of our step 11 meditation practice, but I don't use the third step prayer every day. I use my third step prayer in making the decision to turn my will and my life over. And once that's said, that's it, done. I continue on with the rest of the steps. And then my daily reprieve is my 10, 11 and 12 every single day for the rest of my life. Now, don't let me cause you any confusion. If one wishes to say their third step prayer every day as part of your selected prayers, then of course, that's good. That's okay. That's okay. But it doesn't say in here that every single day we have to say this prayer. But of course, every single day, I'm turning my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood him. Of course I am, because I've made the decision in step 3. Why would I change it? Do you know what I mean? In step 3, I've decided to turn my will and my life over. And where I live is in the moment. in my daily reprieve, I don't spend my time going back to step 3 every day and then going through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You know, my daily reprieve practice is 10, 11 and 12 every single day. That's what keeps me in the moment. That's my practice. And if anybody wishes to talk about that after this, then feel free to drop me a message, email, give me a call. No bother about it. But the point is here, you're making this decision and you move forward into the prayerful exercise in turning your will and your life over. Remember last week we talked about that line in the 3rd step promises that we have a new employer. Bear that in mind as we go through the rest of this. Because now that we're at step 3, many of us have said to our maker, I love that word for God. Notice that it's a word for God. It's capitalized. He's our maker. You may not believe that in your God of your understanding, and that's okay. We said to our maker, as we understood him. Notice again that that's italicized. What they're saying to you is, and that they're italicizing it because it's so important. We're saying to the God of your own understanding. And even though they use the word maker here, you can use whatever word you wish. Maker reminds me of that word on page 25, that our Creator has entered into our hearts in a way that is miraculous. So choose whatever word you wish to use this, and it goes on in the next paragraph to explain that a little bit further. But notice the language here and what we're entering into. When anybody has a new employer, often they'll issue you with a contract of employment. And what that contract does, it's a binding agreement between the employer and the employee about what the employer will provide and what the employee will get. Or what the employee will do and what the employer will get as a result. It's a two-way contract. It's a binding agreement that both the organisation, the company, the employer signs, as well as the employee. So you have a new employer, is what it's saying in the 3rd step promises. And the way that I explain this is that we're entering into this contract. The first part of the contract is, from my perspective, if you like, as the employee, the special agent. Remember we talked about that from We Agnostics. We're all special agents, spearheads of God's ever-advancing creation. I'm a very special agent. I've got a job to do. So as that very special agent of God, what I'm saying in this prayer is, as part of my part of the contract, God, I offer myself to thee. And what we're offering to God is then for him. I'm using the word him. Don't get offended by the whole gender thing. Make it what it is. I don't want to offend anybody. I'm just using the words that I used this morning. So if the police want to come in and tell me that I'm not using the right language, then that's okay too. You know, the number of calls I get every week about, you didn't use the political correct version. I don't really care. Set all of that aside to have the new experience with God, okay? To build with me. So I'm offering myself to God as part of this new contract of employment. He is my employer. I am the special agent. I'm offering myself to him. And what I'm asking is for him to build with me. Build, construct. And to build with me. So we're starting something here. We're building. We're constructing something. But the word that is important here also is with me. It's a two-way agreement. I am not doing this by myself. I'm entering into a prayerful exercise for the rest of my life, essentially. I am not doing this by myself. Build with me. And to do with me as thou wilt. To do with me what thy wilt. We're turning our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood him. So if you're sitting here thinking you've done your third step prayer before, but you're just going to hold on to the relationship thing, or you're just going to hold on to the job thing, or you're just going to hold on to the car thing, or you're just going to hold on to the family thing because you can have everything else, that's not how this works. It's everything. Because God is going to construct with you, to build with you as he wilt. Because ask yourself this question: how's the life been going for you up to this point when you've been running the show by yourself? How's it been going for you? My sponsor says that to me all the time. How's that going for you? And I hate when he does that. Because he's reminding me, or he'll say that silly phrase, I don't even know what it means. How do you like them apples? Shut up. But basically what he's doing is pointing out to me that I'm living in my own will. But isn't that so beautiful? God, as part of this contract, you're my new employer. I'm your special agent. I am now deciding that I am going to give you my will and my life. I'm giving it to you, and together we're going to build with me, and to do with me as we wilt. This is a partnership, a lifelong partnership. Now, when a contract of employment is broken, sometimes people get in trouble, like the employer can get in trouble because they get brought to an employment tribunal. Or if the employee breaks the contract, they can get in trouble because they get disciplined for misconduct or poor attendance at work. So there's always things to pay if a contract is broken. Now, I come from the perspective that God never punishes. No, God is love, only love. God never punishes. But in breaking this contract, if I don't hand my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood him, I'm staying in my own will, and that's not good for me. The story of the actress running the show will demonstrate the actor running the show. That story in and of itself demonstrates that life run on my terms, wrestle in satisfaction with this world, if only he can manage well, if only I can manage well, doesn't give me great joy. It gives me more difficulties, right? So what we're saying is here, it's a partnership. We're doing this together, but realistically, God is the director. Remember that. That's the sincere position that we're taking. He is the director. He is the principal. I am the agent. He is the father. He will always provide and protect, and I am the child. I'm always coming from a place of more learning as a child. I'm always coming from a place of being able to be taught more and more every single day, because I am the child and there's always something more to learn. Get this piece. Relieve me of the bondage of self. Relieve me of the bondage of self. It doesn't say help me with the bondage of self, because if I'm saying help me, it means that I still know a little bit about what I'm doing, but I don't have a clue about what I'm doing. At this point, I'm making this decision that my life is not my life. My life is God's life, to do with me as he will. That's a big decision, that we're making here. It is, but it's just the decision, because as we go through the process, the turning over and takes place. This is not done and dusted when we say this prayer. The decision is made and then we move on. People get themselves wrapped around an axle about all of this, and there's no necessity to. It's actually relatively straightforward. But note that, relieve me of the bondage of self. Why? So that I may better do thy will. There's the contract. You relieve me of the bondage of self, and in relieving me of the bondage of self, I can better do your will. Isn't that amazing? Not help me be who I think I should be, and I'll probably do a bit about what you want to do whenever I fancy it. Because that's still your will. And the next part, oh my God, this one hit me like a ton of bricks, and I just adore this. This is where I get emotional about this stuff. So forgive me if I do. But like, no matter where you are in your life right now, think about what you're asking here in this prayer. I saw somebody in the chat put on this morning before the meeting started, I'm 7 days clean, sober, and I've never been happier in my life. 7 days. And long may that last. And the only way that it's going to continue for your lifetime is that if you do this. 7 days of happiness is the tip of the iceberg of what is available to you if you take these steps seriously, and that if you literally get a sponsor and work the steps, it's that simple. And I hasten to add that those 7 days of the happiest days in your life so far will very quickly turn back to misery if you don't do what is suggested. I have to caveat that. Don't take your joy away. There's more available, but you have to do this. And this is when you work through, I'm talking to that person that put that in the chat, when you work from the first, I'm talking to anybody in the room, of course. But when you work from that front cover page up to this point, you will understand what this next line means. Because you will have started to see the complexities of your life. You will have started to see how much you're running the show. You will have started to see and experience, if you're willing and honest and open and minded enough to let the idea in that you're powerless over alcohol, step one, that there is something greater than yourself, and that in making this decision, what you're asking for is God to take away my difficulties. Listen to those words. Take away my difficulties. It doesn't say, help me with my difficulties. It says, take them away. It doesn't say, take away my alcohol difficulties. It doesn't say, take away my drug difficulties. It says, take away my difficulties. Whatever your difficulties are, you might not even know what your difficulties are at this moment in time because you still think you know. Set aside every single thing you think you know to have this new experience with God. This is a cycle, a constant prayer, constant in your life for the rest of your life. It's the most beautiful, powerful thing. Take away my difficulties. First part of the contract. Why? That victory over them, the next part, will bear witness to those I would help. I'm a special agent of God. Special agent, spearhead of God's ever advancing creation. So if you take away my difficulties, people will bear witness to. If you take away my difficulties, people will start to see me doing your work and those that I would help with your power, with your love and your way of life. There's a line in another religious book, take us in the spirit in which I mean it. Doesn't matter what the religious book is, but it says in there, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am an agent of God. I am the way, the truth, and the life. When I take my third step prayer, when I seriously take this third step prayer, I am making the decision to hand my will over to the care of God as I understand him, so that people can bear witness to God's love, God's power, and God's way of life. That's what I'm demonstrating. That's the contract. When I take his guidance, every single thing in my life changes without me even knowing it. May I do thy will always. Always. Not just every now and again. Always. Because when I stay close to God and do his work well, my will is God's will. I laugh about this all the time, but you know that I say this, that I'm a little carry case for God. God comes everywhere with me. Changeless, limitless, all powerful. All powerful. Remember, we talked about it at the top of page 59. He who has all power, may you find him now. May you find him now. In every single moment of the day, I can find the power if I choose to. I can choose my mind, change my mind at every given moment of the day. And ultimately, when I have any difficulties, I can choose to see peace instead of the difficulties. I can choose that. And what this program of action, what this program of recovery enables me to do is to have my brain rewired to be able to choose differently, to be able to see things differently. And as we go through our step 4 through 7, our perception of the world begins to change, if it hasn't already done so up to this point. But you will have seen aggregate movement in your thought processes. As you start the steps, you will start to see and feel things differently. It tells us in the bottom paragraph on page 567, the spiritual experience at the back of the book, appendix 2. Friends of the newcomer see the change in them before they even realize it's happening in themselves. You might not even realize it's happening. But isn't that the most powerful contract, agreement? Take away my difficulties. All of them. It's not just your drink and drugs, because there's so much else going on, because we know that, don't we? Selfish self-centeredness, it's the root of our problems driven by 100 forms of fear, driven by 100 forms of self, driven by 100 forms of self-delusion. There's so much more of the difficulties that you have that you need your help with. But in getting the drink and drug thing to go away, all of the other stuff is taken away too. And people bear witness to his love, his power, his way of life, his energy, his flow, his everything. I sent a message to one of my friends last Saturday. I'm like, I do not know how I do this stuff. Going from one thing to another, to another, to another, to another, to another. And you guys know what this is. Service, showing up, being of service to family, friends, to your employer. I messaged my friend at 9:15 in the evening, and I was like, I do not know how I've got from 6:15 a.m. to 9:15. I don't know how I've done it. Then in the next message, well, you know what I mean. Of course I know how you've done it, because it's not me that's doing it. It's the power that's running in and through me that's doing it. I'm staying close to him and doing his work well. And that gives me more energy to keep on giving it away. I get more energy back. It gives me more energy to keep giving it away. It's the most miraculous thing to be part of. And I say this all the time. You might think that I'm woo-woo when it comes to all of this, but I don't care. I really and truly do not care what you think of me. Because see the life that I have as a result of what has been given to me by simply saying this prayer and taking the action. It blows my mind. And see right now, I've got difficulties galore. You want to go and have a cup of tea for 4 hours and sit and talk about it, because you'd be bored to tears listening to this poo that's going on in my life. You'd be bored to tears. But that's not what my life's about anymore. You know, when I've got difficulties, I throw myself all the harder into helping others. I throw myself all the harder, you know. Yesterday I had a whole plan for my day, gorgeous. Or, you know, a whole plan for my day, really, really tough day at work, blah, blah, blah. I know, pity, pity, pity me, please do. Tough day at work, no different from anybody else in the world, you know. I was looking forward to a really relaxed evening, gorgeous, all this planned, all planned. And then what happens? Boom, telephone call comes, changes the plans. What do I do in that moment when that telephone call comes through? I take a breath. I remember, genuinely, God needs me somewhere else. So I say to my brother, that's no problem. And here I am, a complete different location, a complete different agenda last night, a complete different agenda today, a complete different agenda tomorrow, because God had a different plan. Like it says in those third step promises at the top of 63, my little plans and designs no longer matter. God had something else for me to do. And I'm sitting where I am right now, not knowing what that plan is for the rest of today. But I've had to just say, okay, the contract. That my family, my friends, anybody that I'm in touch with today can bear witness to his love, his power, his way of life. That's the contract I made when I said that third step prayer. And let me tell you, I'm not always an angel. My friend Leslie will tell you that. I am not always an angel. But sometimes, those non-angel moments take me to a place of, oh, I remember. When I forget that I've made this decision, when I forget, all of a sudden something else swoops into my mind and says, remember, Mags, remember. And that's what happened yesterday. So the bubble bath and the beautiful facial and the nice food, takeaway and everything. Did any of that happen last night? No, because God had a different plan. Did I have a beautiful evening? 1,000,000% I did. Did I have to keep setting aside every single thing I think I knew to have a new experience with God last night because I wasn't doing what I wanted to be doing? You bet I did. But did those prayers work? 1,000,000%. Because I had one of the most beautiful evenings of my life. Remarkable. Was it what I wanted to be doing? I emphasize, no, it was not. But I'm paying it forward or something. I'm paying it forward. In doing this, God pays me well. I had such peace of mind last night. I was able to think about this meeting. Blah, 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 blah. I hope some of that makes some sense. So I don't know what you want to do over the course of the next week. Read that prayer, sit with that prayer, sit with those words. What does it mean to you? Because it goes on to give us some very clear-cut directions with regards to this prayer. Once we've wrapped our head around this contract and what this means. We thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready. You've got to think seriously. You've got to think really well before you make this decision to make sure you are ready. Ready means for immediate use. Because let me tell you, when you say this prayer, you better be ready for immediate use. Because the next step kicks in. And the pace at which this goes now, you do not hang around in step 4. You do not hang around in the bitter morass of self-pity. You get into 4 and you get out of it quickly. You do not sit in that stagnant pond of guilt, shame, remorse. Oh my God, this happened to me when I was 5 years old. No. You get out of it. Oh, my wife has divorced me. So what? Get on with it. Seriously, you don't sit in the stagnant pond. Now, believe me, when I'm going through this process, it's pacey. We don't hang around. So consider the fact that when you do your step 3, what this ultimately means, that you're heading into this very prayerful exercise. I keep emphasizing that because it's not talked about enough in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous or CA or Cocaine Anonymous. We put the fear of God into the newcomer about step 4. And our role as sponsors is to take the fear and tell them not to take it ourselves, but to let them know that it's a fearless and thorough moral inventory of ourselves. It's not a fearful moral inventory of ourselves. There's nothing to be afraid of here. Absolutely and utterly not. You've entered into the contract. You're safe. You're protected. You're with the power that is greater than you. There's nothing to be afraid of. So you think well before making that step, making sure you're ready for immediate use. Listen to this, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to him. This is what we're doing in this third step prayer. You're holding on to nothing. Nothing. You're giving it all, that we could at last, yes, eventually, after everything we've done, the trials and tribulations, contorting ourselves, actors running the show, thinking that we know better. How's that going for you? How do you like them apples? Not very well. So what are you doing waiting about? That we could at last abandon, that word's important, ourselves utterly. That word's important to him. Boom. Let it all go. People don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that means. And I really, really struggled with that. You know, I've said it time and time again. I struggle with the word surrender. Surrender means defeat to me, or it used to anyway. You know, surrender, little white flag. Oh, we've been defeated. I was never able to surrender myself to God and know that the word surrender isn't mentioned in the 164 pages. Okay, so when I was a newcomer, they were saying surrender. No, I haven't been defeated by alcohol. I'm here to prove to you that I can beat this thing. Could I? No, I couldn't. But this is where we're then moving into step 4, fearless, thorough moral inventory. It's a constant state of letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go. Going into those inventories, letting it all out of our head and doing it in the way that's going to be instructed over the course of the next couple of weeks. Abandon ourselves utterly to him. Now, that's not the first time you've heard that word abandon. On page 59 at the top, we know that we've got to abandon ourselves with complete abandon. We'd already said that prayer. Half measures availed us nothing. Half measures avail you nothing when you're going into your step 3 prayer and beyond. Avail you nothing. If you think you're going to hold on to a couple of things, no, it'll avail you nothing. We stood at the turning point. Remember, we stand at this turning point. We're either going to look out to the external world and all of that third dimensional stuff that we think is the thing that's affecting us, or we're going to turn in. You're standing at this turning point into the God of your own understanding. Deep down within every single man, woman and child, that's where it exists. That's in the last analysis that he may be found. That's what it tells us up to this point. We know all of this stuff. And if we don't know all of this stuff, we get reminded of it by our sponsor as we go through. We've said that prayer. We've asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Again, top of page 59, complete abandon. So you won't be surprised that you're going to abandon yourself utterly to him. Everything. I remember the last time I did this prayer, and I was like, the penny dropped. It was like, oh my God, it means everything. The penny dropped. It's like, I've been holding on. But actually I should have just let go. And holding on to what I thought I needed. I had no clue what I needed. I still have no clue what I need. That's why I take the direction and the guidance every day. The penny dropped. It then goes on to give us a couple of clear-cut instructions here. And take this next paragraph in the context in which it was written nearly 90 years ago when the book was first printed, when there wasn't very many physical meetings, when there wasn't very many sponsors. Okay? Some people will take this paragraph completely and utterly out of context and say, oh, I've just done this third step by myself because it tells me to do it by myself. No, that's not what it's saying. In the context of which it's written, here's what it's saying. We found it very desirable to take this spiritual step. Important, spiritual. It's not a religious step. It is a spiritual step to the God of your own understanding. That's why it doesn't matter whether you call it maker, creator, spirit of the universe. That's why they italicize the God of your understanding, how you understood him. So we found it very desirable. This is number 1. We found it very desirable to take this spiritual step with an understanding person, such as our wife, best friend, or spiritual advisor. Back in the day, they wouldn't have had many people who were sponsoring. So they would have had to have done this prayer with their wife or their spiritual advisor, their church person, or their best friend. They would have had to have explained the errand that they were on or what they were about to embark upon. Okay? Nowadays, it is much easier. We do this with our sponsor. Okay? I have had experience where I've done it with a group of people as well. Very, very beautiful. But it is better to meet God alone with one who might misunderstand. That is in the context of nearly 90 years ago. If their best friend, wife, or spiritual advisor didn't understand the errand or the endeavour that they were on, it was better for them to meet God alone than to meet with somebody that didn't understand and tried to talk them out of it, basically, in a nutshell. If I was to go to my sister and do my 3rd step prayer, she'd say to me, Mags, wind your neck in. What are you doing? You're a weirdo. You've turned to this whole God thing and you think that's going to take me away from you and that all of the hassle you've caused our family and you want me to listen to this guff? Can you imagine how that would have went down? I have to say it with somebody who will understand. And the person that understands me the best and still understands me the best is my sponsor. So don't take that word out of context. I'm going to do this by myself. Well, how's that going for you? How do you like them apples? I can't believe I've turned into my sponsor and using some of the phrases that he uses. I really did not want that to happen in my life. But actually, do you know what? All along, he's been right. Number 2, the wording was, of course, quite optional, so long as you expressed the idea. I love the prayer in the book, but what it's telling us here is, if the words to you in your life right now seem old-fashioned, such as thou will or do as thou wilt, you know, it's old-fashioned language. If that old-fashioned language doesn't suit you, then choose your own wording. It's optional, but as long as you express the same idea that is set out in this book. Okay? I've listened. I say to my sponsees, read it from the book or write your own. And I have listened to some of the most powerful self-written 3rd step prayers ever. Really, truly meaningful 3rd step prayers where they've expressed the idea of, you're my director. You are the principal. I am your agent. I'm going to do your work. You're my father. I am your child. They have expressed that idea that he's going to build with me, that we're going to work together, that I want you to take away all my difficulties. Don't let me hold on to this stuff. Enable me to let go. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Some of the most beautiful prayers I have listened to, the wording is optional. As long as you express the idea that is set out within these beautiful clear-cut directions. Number 3, voicing it without reservation. You have to say it out loud. And this was only a beginning. This prayer was only a beginning. Though if honestly and humbly made, an effect, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once. Boom. Now here's the thing. Voicing it without reservation, saying it out loud, saying it honestly and humbly. This is how much I was affected by a complete and utter lack of humility I didn't want to say it out loud to my sponsor. So even the act of saying it out loud enabled God to humble me, even in that exercise. Because I can't humble myself. I need God's help with that. You know, often I have a lack of humility. I need God's help with that. So for me, it was a huge step to say this prayer out loud to my sponsor. And then, you know, some people humble themselves and get on their knees and say it out loud. Some people want to kneel down and put their head on the floor and humble themselves. Whatever my sponsees wish to do, I do it with them. If they want to go somewhere to say the prayer, then go, do that. They'll do it, they'll voice it in our sessions together, and then they may well go somewhere special and do it again for themselves, because they wish to meet God alone at that point, to experience it with the God of their own understanding. But the important thing is that you do it with somebody that understands. And that's the third step prayer. And I hope I've covered something that has brought something to your mind, most importantly to your heart, where your Creator lives and has entered in a way that is miraculous. This third step prayer is an agreement. It's a partnership. It's a relationship. You're not by yourself, never have been, and for sure never will be, as long as you stay close to Him and do His work well. That's all that's required. And notice there is no amen at the end of that prayer, because the prayer doesn't stop until step 7. I'll leave it at that.